give me the case for Oklahoma as being head and shoulders above everybody else in the Big 12 and a legitimate playoff, a legitimate national championship contender.
They have the best proven quarterback in the country and potentially the best proven offensive mind in the country, joining forces with new offensive talent coming in and getting healthier and perhaps emerging against a schedule that's pretty good. I think that's probably a fantastic place to start, especially with an emerging defense on the other side of the field holding up their end of the bargain in ways that they have not necessarily before, at least 2020. 2020 was a very impressive step forward. So, no, their starting point is phenomenal with Spencer Rattler able to make, as you like to put it, all the throws, can really spin it. So, they're in a fantastic place that no other Big 12 team can claim to be, just because of the high-end talent involved with Oklahoma, in addition to the experience and track record.
Last season, lost 2 in a row to
correct. Started 1-2 last
K-State
season
and Iowa State, right?
They lose to K-State and Iowa State. Still superb offensively, though I think. Yeah, I'm just talking overall. They took a step back on the ground because Ramondre Stevenson, who's now gone, was not able to play those first 5 games because of suspension that carried over from the 2019 season. Spencer Rattler is a very strong quarterback. This was not a team that necessarily bombed the ball downfield as successfully and had a big play receiver in the vein of CeeDee Lamb, D.D. Westbrook, Sterling Shepard, Ryan Broyles, Hollywood Brown. Like, all those guys were a step or a couple steps above where Oklahoma was last year, but Marvin Mims emerged, Theo Wees. Jaden Hazelwood is still sort of yet to take that full expected next step or two. Charleston Rambo he was there forever, but now he's leaving and he's at Miami. So that's going to be a big element to things moving forward, that they didn't necessarily have that pop on the outside that they were used to, nor at running back until Ramondre Stevenson came back. But I think the interesting thing to me about where they were last year, and I think where they're going to improve this year, is a lot is made of the skill positions and the offensive fireworks, but they had truly great offensive lines that they didn't necessarily have last year. I think the offensive line took a step back, but I imagine it's going to get back to the level of expectations this year and moving forward. So I expect Oklahoma to look more familiar with Spencer Rattler now having a full real offseason under his belt. He had it a couple of years ago, but as an entrenched starter, I'm expecting a really nice step forward from the Oklahoma offense, which is great because defensively last year, they were crazy impressive for the most part. For the most part, this defense, highlighted by their performance against, I think, Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game, they played urgently, they played quickly, they wrapped up in ways that they weren't able to in years past. Oklahoma's defense was full-on impressive last year, both in terms of production and just buy-in and how hard they played. So, and the talent level, I think, is up with that defense as well.
Yeah,
so
right.
I am fully encouraged by Oklahoma and the expectations, which I think top out at national champion, which might be a little much unless a receiver or two truly emerge. But Oklahoma is in a place in terms of being a complete team that I don't think they have fully been there in that place these last few years.
The offensive line, I believe, is the best in the nation, according to our friend Phil Steele.
Is that true? I don't know, man.
Phil Steele has Oklahoma over Ohio State, Washington, Iowa State, and Utah.
I would probably take at this point, in terms of proven commodities, I know they add Wanya Morris, the Tennessee transfer, at one of the tackle spots. I still think I would take Evan Neal and whichever 4 guys are lining up next to Evan Neal at Bama, and probably the strength of those 2 tackles at Ohio State. I would take them. But Oklahoma's still in a great place.
Yeah, I mean, and just looking nationally, if I expand out on that, he's got them first in the offensive line unit, but
really
first at
That's
quarterback.
Surprising to me.
First at quarterback, which of course is on the arm of Spencer Rattler. 4th at running back. 2nd at wide receiver. Obviously, 1st at offensive line.
Wait, 2nd nationally at wide receiver?
That is correct.
Man, That's a lot of optimism from Philip.
6 of the top 7 back from 2020. This is per him. This is not my words. I'm just kind of reciting
Marvin Mims is very good.
Third defensive line. At linebacker, 9th. And then in the secondary, 3rd. So Phil Steele is all in on Oklahoma this year.
Wow.
He's all in on Oklahoma. It is not without good reason. But I think the bigger point here is Spencer Rattler is clearly going to get most of the attention. He's going to be the main talking point. Oklahoma's a lot more than just Spencer Rattler.
Of course. And now they get Kennedy Brooks back, who opted out last year, and they pair him with Eric Gray, who I think is going to be taking on an all-purpose role in a ways that there weren't many purposes to the Tennessee offense. Yeah. So, Eric Gray, and then Theo Wease was out during the spring with sort of a mysterious leg injury. He's apparently full go, according to Lincoln Riley. So Oklahoma's in a fantastic place in terms of upside of their offensive skill talent. It's again, though, who is that enormous CeeDee Lamb level problem that's going to command attention from everybody? And I hope it's Marvin Mims. I hope it's Jaden Hazelwood. I hope it's, that's a great duo or trio to start with Theo Wease, but we'll see. We'll absolutely see. That to me is a looming question, but you're right about the defense. You're right about how they stack up nationally to me, just with the step they took forward last year. I think there's NFL caliber talent on all 3 levels. They became an aggressive problem for everybody. I don't know they gave up a lot to Texas, but otherwise a really impressive step forward for Alex Grinch's defense last year. Their first real test, by the way, if we're going to get into traffic. I don't know if you have any more thoughts about the way the squad and the appeal of this year is laid out. They have Kansas State October 2nd. That's followed by UT and Dallas, of course. The end stretch of traveling to Baylor, which I know per your thoughts on the Bears last episode, that doesn't scare you tremendously. No. But then Iowa State and Bedlam on the road, there's some danger there. There's absolutely some danger there. So tricky at the end, but otherwise pretty workable. Is that okay to say?
It's extremely workable. It's the 51st most difficult schedule in college football. And, if you look around the rest of the conference, it is the easiest schedule of all the teams in the Big 12. And again, goes back to the point that they don't have to play themselves, but it's very workable. There aren't any huge gauntlets on here. You have to like what you see. Zooming back out to the Phil Steele point, Phil hasn't won in the national championship. He's all in on Oklahoma this year. So it's an exciting team. The schedule sets up well. I did not look at the over-under. I can pull that up now. Where are you at in terms of where this team comes down?
What's in the tank?
11. 11 is the over-under. So Vegas is seeing 1 loss on the schedule.
That's how I have them at 11-1, which still might have them as a playoff team. They can run the table. There is no obvious, full, complete killer on this schedule, all due respect to Iowa State and Kansas State, to whom they are on a losing streak, against whom. So 11-1, I think, is the most realistic thing, that they're just going to drop something odd. But even their losses last year, that comes at the very beginning of Spencer Rattler's starting career. And yes, he looked a little bit shaky late in those games. There were, I'm sure, 3 to 5 throws he wishes he could get back. But I'm also glossing over the fact that he had some pretty awful drops in that Iowa State loss that were not on him, that he threw dimes that were not pulled in. So the opportunities were there against those teams. They were not blown out by Kansas State and Iowa State. So that to me is, encouraging. And now that he, again, has this full off season to really gel and get comfortable as the entrenched starter and perhaps best quarterback in the country, I mean, it's nothing less than a huge win for the Sooners. So 11-1 seems right. The ceiling to me, just without obvious electricity on offense and the depth of talent, I think, on defense needed to probably get over the top and win the national championship. Like, I think the starters are there, but what happens if you get a couple key injuries? I think the depth isn't fully there on defense yet to really take them seriously as a national championship threat, but anything can happen. I have their ceiling as playoff, but losing in the playoff.
I think that's fair, Dan.